Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Product Coffee Book Club Kickoff. I am Megan Perkins, obviously filling in for Allison today, and I am joined by the author of our upcoming book club selection, Farther, Faster, and Far Less Drama, Janice Frazier. Janice, say hello.
There I am. Hi.
Hi, Janice. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Happy to have you here. We'll get into some questions about the book shortly. Just wanted to kind of go into some administrative updates for anyone that hasn't joined before, or just a reminder for those that are coming back. So Product Coffee Book Club, it is a book club for product people. We're hosted through the Product Coffee administration. So it's book club for anyone that is in the product space. We tend to meet every other week, but at this point, we are going to probably have a pretty full October as we're currently working our way through another book, the Impact First book by Matt LeMay. So we'll finish up his book and then jump into Farther, Faster, and Far Less Drama with our first session on October 17th. So those who have not joined book club before, if you haven't read a session, it's obviously perfectly fine for you to still join book club. I believe we have Manesh in our studio today. So Manesh, if you wouldn't mind just telling us a little bit about how Product Coffee Book Club has helped you in previous sessions.
So for the longest time, I've never been able to finish a book. And I'm so passionate about product, I figured I have to do something. And Product Coffee was able to allow me to be able to actually finish a book. And not only finish a book, but the interactions between the other folks that are on the calls that we talk about the book makes it even more valuable, because now it's real time understanding where people are coming from and not just my perspective of what I read the book as. As part of this endeavor, I've lost some of my books, sometimes at the airport, sometimes on planes. I have to buy, and sometimes it's a library book that I lost, so it's even worse, right? But it's fun, and it helps me get through reading a book and understanding more about it, and actually consume the information and actually put it into use. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I can say, similar experience for me being, earlier or newer to the product space. Having joined book club, I've gotten to hear a lot of different perspectives for people who are further along in their product career, people who are just starting out. So it's been really helpful to learn from everyone and have a space to engage in those conversations. So obviously something we highly recommend joining, even if you aren't able to complete the reading assignment for the session. Still always helpful conversations to have. So let's get into the book, Farther, Faster, Far Less Drama. Janice, we're so excited to have you here today, and I guess we can kind of get kicked off with just tell us, what was the inspiration for writing this book?
Well, thank you so much for choosing Farther, Faster. The title kind of says it all. Like, we wanted it to do what it said on the tin, so Farther, Faster, and Far Less Drama. Like, that's what I kept hearing my whole life, right? Can we go faster? How do we get more done? And my frustration is that I think a lot of the drama that happens in product organizations is really not helpful, and it's not necessary. And my whole life is kind of about reducing suffering. I just want people to suffer less. I feel like we go to work and it just kind of sucks, and it's frustrating, and I kept watching good people try to do the right thing and end up having conflict with each other. And so my husband and I are both, we've kind of had these parallel careers, right? Jason and I have these parallel careers, I started out in user experience. I was the founder of a very early user experience company. And, he started out more on the software product side. And so the two of us ended up starting a company together in 2010. And we landed that company at Pivotal Software, which was this really beautiful environment for building software. And during those years when we were together working at our startup Luxor, and then when we were together at Pivotal, like we got to refine our point of view together about how to accomplish those things, how to like accelerate progress and make it less sucky. And over time we just realized that we wanted to write it down. And so that's how we ended up doing the book. It's how we ended up doing the book as a husband-wife team, which is pretty unusual. And I think that the blending of, I'm the entrepreneurial one. Like I've started 6 companies. I'm always like, I'm all jazz hands. And he's the guy that like, he makes the trains run on time, and he runs big teams of people who like also can like just deliver on a regular basis, in a very low drama kind of way. And so between us, we had this really interesting intersection of points of view. Mm-hmm. And, through all that time, we were also raising a family, and we were also, I've shared a lot about my own personal journey. And so we started applying a lot of these techniques across other contexts. And I'll tell you, like, I started the PTA at my son's public elementary school, and that was harder than any startup I've ever done. And so like we applied these tools in such a really, really broad array of contexts, everything from literally like running workshops at Camp David for the Obama White House to, our kitchen table when it was COVID and we had to figure out whether our son was going to go back, to campus when it was dangerous and we didn't know what direction everything was going to go. Like, so we've applied all of this thinking, all of these tools and techniques in this like vast array of contexts. And we feel like it just all kind of works because it's human, right? It's like, this is like, how do you get groups of humans to just take a breath out and get a lot more good stuff done? Mm-hmm. So that's how we ended up doing this.
Nice. That's such a great story. I knew that you and your husband had worked on this book together. And I imagine wanting to keep drama out of the office as well as out of your home was probably pretty important starting a company together.
Yeah. And what we find is that drama will just find us. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but it's a pretty dramatic time that we're living in. Mm-hmm. And so drama just will show up unbidden, and we just don't want to make more. Like we don't need to make our own. So our goal is to just let things be as easy as they possibly can be, because everything else is so hard. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where we're coming from.
Nice. Yeah, I know from a product perspective, right? We're managing stakeholders, and we tend to be people who are highly empathetic and working with a wide variety of people and personality types, and so it's easy to encounter drama on quite a regular basis. But I know, yes, within the workforce in general, it's pretty common. So
well, and I want to name that there are different kinds of personas and profiles that get hired for. So at Pivotal hired first and foremost for empathy. That was the number one hiring criteria. And they had very sophisticated screening techniques. And so at that workplace, everyone was extraordinarily empathetic. But I've been in other workplaces where the hiring profile was explicitly not about empathy. And so there was this like cold, and I don't mean cold in a pejorative sense. I mean, it's just, there's the sort of, one profile, and then there's this other profile that is deeply like hyper rational. Just show me the math, right? Mm-hmm. Both profiles are extraordinarily drama laden. Mm-hmm. But like there's not this like there's a myth that the touchy-feely people have more drama. But honestly, I've seen as much drama in the not touchy-feely people as I have. It's just a different flavor of drama. Mm-hmm. And so like maybe it would be useful to talk about what is drama. Yeah. And right? And so for me, the drama is the abundant bad feelings and ruminations that happen when we are not hearing each other and when we are not able to efficiently make effective decisions that move the ball forward, right? So it's that, like, it's all that wasted time and effort that goes into shoulda, woulda, coulda, that goes into that person, all the finger pointing, that person, this person, that person. It's resentment and, it's all of that, all those bundles and packages of stuff that are deeply, deeply human, natural reactions and unproductive. So one of the things that I have done a lot of in my life is facilitate leadership offsites. And there was this one company that I worked with, and it was a leadership team of about 30 people, right? So it's a relatively large company. And we're talking the senior director VP level, not the executive VP, but that like upper middle management, not middle management, but like the people who are like bridging strategy and tactics, right? And I have never, it was literally like facilitating a knife fight. And these people are top of their career, extremely high performers. They're all getting paid really outrageous amounts of money. And yet they were extraordinarily wasteful in their time. And wasteful because they weren't listening. They would monologue. They would just do all these behaviors that were unproductive. And so we want to have less of that because nobody likes it. Everybody hates it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean that drama and unproductivity, creates it's just sort of like the snowball effect that can go out into all the other teams and relationships and interactions that you have. So I know this kind of started in your product experience, but it really sounds like this can apply in so many different scenarios. So in your opinion, like, who can benefit from reading this book?
Well, so, we actually face a lot of pressure to make this just a product book and just a business book. And, we probably would have sold a lot more copies if we had allowed it to be hyper specialized that way. But I actually don't believe that would serve the purpose, right? The purpose that we wanted was to help people be more effective wherever they lead. And so I think that the people that the book is for are people. The book is really for people who are driven to help the people around them be more effective and who have that service mindset that product people often have. It's like, I'm here to help move the ball forward, whatever that ball happens to be. And whatever context that happens to be. And I mentioned that, I've led workshops at Camp David. Like, that was like literally for the National Security Council. Like this goes into every nook and cranny of human collaborative endeavor. And, and so it's the drive to just be more effective and get more done that is, I think, the determining factor. And, this book definitely has a point of view. And the point of view is that we do better if we can leverage all the brains. That's 1/3 of the book is leverage the brains. Like, if we take the proposition that, that I know best, and if you just do what I want, then we're going to go farther, faster. That is not what this book is for. This book is for I have no idea how to get out of the mess that we're in, but I believe that if we do it together, we're going to get there. That's who this book is for. And so it really is we go farther and we go faster if we go together, but we have to go together in a mindful way with good collaboration and effectiveness.
I guess with the collaboration piece, kind of what has been most helpful for you in these very wide swath of scenarios to drive collaboration with people who may not necessarily be coming into the space to be collaborative?
Sure. That's a great question. And it is, it is actually answerable, right? There is one thing. If you take nothing else from the book, the one thing is this. We're often taught how to set goals. We spend so much of our time with OKRs, outcomes, right? We can talk forever about goal setting. Outrageous amounts have been written about it. Almost nothing is written or taught about how to notice where we are right now. And so I call this point A thinking. So let's say half of my team is in Denver, half of my team is in Miami. I need to get everybody to Albuquerque. If I ignore the fact that we are in different places, I cannot send driving directions, right?
Mhm.
So what we need is for all of us to notice, where are we right now? Where are we divergent and where are we in a shared space? And so defining point A and being really clear about point A is probably the hardest thing. It's the first part of the book. It's probably the hardest thing to master because we have so few tools for understanding where we are. And so we turn to, there's this woman, Barbara Minto, who is just iconic. She was one of the first women to graduate from Harvard Business School back in the 60s. And she created this approach for what I call point A, situation, complication, question, answer. So there's a little sidebar about Barbara Minto and how much we adore her thought process, but she created the communication protocol that is still used by McKinsey and Co. To this day. So 50 plus years later, her thought platform has probably been she's probably the most influential communication consultant on the planet, and almost nobody knows her name.
Yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to getting into those tools because I feel like, in product, at least being able to point out that point A for everyone is so beneficial.
Yeah, drawing it out. I think that the first part of collaboration then is like finding ways to elicit true, accurate point A's. Often people aren't, I think for a variety of reasons, people are sometimes reluctant to say what they actually believe about where they are right now, or where the situation is right now. It feels impolitic, it feels unkind, it feels rough. A lot of people who practice, various, positive communication patterns think that it is nicer to conceal certain information. But so the difference between nice and kind was something we talked a lot about at Pivotal.
Mm.
If you're nice, you're protective of people's feelings in a non-productive way. If you're kind, you're able to do that sort of the positive part of radical candor. Some people have a little problem with radical candor, and I understand that. But we're talking about what is the kind thing to do. Well, the kind thing to do is to figure out what is really at play so that you can have a productive path forward.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I think the radical candor plus kindness is a great space to aim for. So I'm really excited to crack open this book and have a lot of different discussions around this, and I'm sure we will all learn so much from it. But I'm just curious, what's something you learned from writing the book that you weren't expecting?
Well, I would say that the hardest section to write was the decision-making section. The part 4 is making durable decisions. We use the word durable. It was a really hard one word. We want decisions that can last. So, nothing is more frustrating than thinking that you have a decision, especially if it's a decision that required a lot of, upline debate and discussion, and you want to go forward with confidence, but half the time the decision will get unmade in a room that you're not part of. And you don't know the decision's been reversed or softened. And so you're proceeding with all good intention. And then later you find out that no, we're going this other way. And so now everybody with all good intention has wasted their time. And then then you get resentment and bad feelings, and it's all accidental. And so how do you make decisions that are more lasting, that are more strategically effective? And I would say that since writing the book, the decision making is probably the part that has continued to evolve the most. So yeah, I think there's really great tools in durable decisions, and I think that that's the place where I would say, and then more research is required. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, decision making is always a hard conversation,
Right.
especially as someone who may not necessarily be the decision maker over
That's right.
big decisions.
Right.
Manesh, I'm wondering if you have any thoughts around decision making in your role and how.
Yeah, I think the decision making, it's very tough, right? That's what people get paid the big bucks for, number one. But part of that was something that you said earlier, Janice, is where are we now? Albuquerque, like you said, and all this other stuff, and that resonated with me because of Southwest. When their systems went down, they had caregivers. I mean, they had everybody everywhere in their world, from all over the U.S., and they had to figure out how to get it. And it took them 3 days to figure that out. That's what triggered my brain. How do you make a decision without knowing where we are?
That's right.
Today?
You can't align people if you don't know where they're coming from.
Right. And then I find another problem, and I don't know how you deal with it, is that when we ask a state or status, it doesn't. It comes across as, what's the motivation? So let me give them a good
right,
or let me tweak it a different way so it sounds.
That's right.
Good. And so I have a struggle with just getting the first one that you talk about, orient honestly.
Yes.
Right? Let's be honest about where we're at. And so.
Absolutely. I think that, and it is the work of real leadership. I mean, that's why I think of this as a leadership book rather than a decision science book or some other framing. Like, it is the work of leadership to make it safe so that people can tell you the truth. Right. And so often the reason that we're having more drama or we're going slow is that people don't feel safe disclosing. They feel like we call it face saving. You have to look good. You always have to look good. So there was a company that I worked with probably a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I call myself a strategic advisor. Like, I'm not a consultant. I don't come in and do project work necessarily. Like, mostly I'm working with C-suite or senior person, and there's some strategic problem that they're trying to untangle, and it's always a person problem, right? That it's a business strategy issue that manifests as organizational dysfunction, right? Or it's organizational dysfunction, I guess the opposite. Organizational dysfunction that manifests as strategic problem, right? Mm-hmm. And this particular company had just not shipped software in 9-10 months, like just zero shipping. And it's not a big company. There weren't hundreds and hundreds of employees. It was, relatively small. And so there's no mechanical excuse, no reason that they weren't shipping. And it turned out that there were just 2 or 3 toxic people in the soup. Mm. And those toxic people made it really unsafe to have good conversation. And so they ended up, I think 2 people were invited to find something else to do with their days, find a better match for their particular skills. And a couple other people were just sort of repositioned, not even reorganized, just repositioned. And just simply untangling some of that HR level mess, within 3 months of doing that, they were shipping. And within 6 months of doing that, they were shipping weekly. And within 9 months of doing that, they were actually shipping, a lot of what I would call story points. Like they were routinely shipping a really surprising number of story points. And so it's like there was just in the supply chain of decision making and orienting honestly, they had some blockers. And by removing the blockers in that supply chain of decisions, they were able to start flowing product out the door. Yeah. It was pretty cool to watch.
Nice. Yeah, I imagine to see that change over the course of several months lets you know that you're kind of on the right track with the changes that are
Yeah.
being made.
It took some really courageous leadership. Like the top, 3 or 4 people in the company really had to like be willing to look at some ugly bits, So it took courage to do that.
Have you seen anyone be able to utilize some of this framework that you're putting out there for a like managing up as more like how an individual contributor can
Oh,
manage
absolutely.
up to their manager?
Yeah, and all of this can work at literally any level of hierarchy. And it's not that you can fix all the problems, you can manage from the middle and fix all the problems of the company. You can't do that, but you can be more effective. That's the goal here, is just to have more agency, to have solutions, have tools you can apply to any system, any situation, and it's all about mindfully activating the people around you to be more effective in the endeavors that they're pursuing. So it's, how do you frame the problem to be solved? How do you ask questions? Who do you involve? Right. So here's a pro tip. Right. So one of my favorite pro tips is, who do you invite to any meeting? Well, there are only 3 kinds of people that need to be in any meeting. And usually we have too many people in most meetings, right? So you need to have the people who can say yes, somebody who can say yes. Like often we have a meeting and then the reason that we're going to have the meeting is to get something done, but then we have to go convince the person who can say yes that the meeting that we had was actually good. Well, like, let's just start by including that person. So somebody who can say yes so that you can have efficiency. Then the next one is the people who have to live with the outcome, right? So often we ignore the people who actually have to implement a thing. Like those people they have a vested interest in what is the discussion that leads to the decision, right? So the people who have to live with the outcome are essential to actually executing on whatever the decision is, right? And they hold specific knowledge about what good would look like, right? So they become, they're the often overlooked subject matter expert. So often this is like the customer service person, like just somebody that can represent that point of view. And the third group is the people who actually do hold the subject matter expertise. And so, when it comes to business decisions, often it's like the scientists who are left out. I've done a lot of work with companies like Procter & Gamble and whatever. And it's like, you get these, you get business decisions are supposed to be made by business people, but you forget that the people who have the subject matter expertise that are going to influence the business decision often are left out of the conversation. So if you just get one person from each of those 3 groups, you're going to be able to make a durable decision. So, and often what you end up with is 20 people in a room and those 3 people are not represented. And so you get waste. Like that entire meeting then is just wasteful. So very carefully curate who's in the room. Who do you invite to the conversation when a decision has to get made?
Nice. Yeah, I think that's a great reminder and pro tip, of course. So I know we're coming up quickly on time here. I guess, Janice, is there anything else you would like us to know about this book before we get started?
I would just say to think about it as a human doing human endeavors. We have so much attention right now on AI, how AI is changing the workplace. All the books that we're all reading right now are AI. Like, we're all in this AI swirl. This is a book for humans, working with humans to create outcomes for humans. And so just really put yourself in that mindset when you read it, because at the end of the day, even when we're using AI, we're humans who are using AI to create outcomes in our world.
Yep. For other humans. Yeah.
Human endeavor. This is a book that helps you to guide human endeavor.
Great. Well, I'm excited to read it. Again, Manesh, any final thoughts or?
I'm excited to read it as well. I'm just hoping that after we read it, we get to sit down and talk to you about what we read and what questions we've curated around the team and all the folks that have joined the book club, because we typically do have that and would love to have that feedback.
I think that we're planning that. So
Right,
yeah,
that would be awesome.
and maybe I'll bring Jason along next time.
Yeah, we would love to meet him as well. So, we're getting kicked off with Farther, Faster, and Far Less Drama, our first session October 17th for chapters 1 and 2. So be sure to get your copy of the book and join us for that first session. We'll go in, we'll finish the book likely sometime in December, and then hopefully be able to get another fireside chat at the end to ask some more specific questions. We have the URL here for the productcoffee.com/book club to join and make sure you're getting those invites. But Janice, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate you speaking with us and telling us more about the book, and we can't wait to read it.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for having me, and I hope you enjoy the book.